Living Treasures Animal Park in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Today I'm going to share some animal stories with you. Our summer reading program is called Tales and Tales, and you can learn all the details at the library. So stay tuned.
Hello.
So when you come to Living Treasures, you can see all kinds of goats. Good morning, flamingos. Good morning. Nancy, I'm going to read you a story today. Do you know in Kenya, Africa, camels serve as librarians to the kids that live in the remote desert? Even four-wheelers can't get to their village, so the librarians pack the books onto the back of the camel. They need two. They need one for all the books. They can put as many as 500 books in the pack on the camel's back, and it almost weighs about 400 pounds. And then the second camel carries a tent. So when they get to the village, they set up the tent and they put out all the books. So the kids in Kenya can borrow books every 2 weeks. And the camels deliver books 5 days a week to different villages. So today I'm going to read a story called Wild About Books. And it's by Judy Sierra and Marc Brown. It started in the summer of 2002 when the Springfield librarian Molly McGrew by mistake drove her bookmobile into the zoo. Molly opened the door and she let down the stair. She turned on the computer and she sat in her chair. At first, all the animals watched from a distance, but Molly could conquer the strongest resistance. I need to take a look at the picture. By reading aloud from the good Dr. Seuss, she quickly attracted a mink and a moose, a wombat, an oryx, a lemur, a lynx, 8 elephant calves, and a family of skinks. In a flash, every beast in the zoo was stampeding to learn all about this new something called reading. Forsaking their niches, their nests, and their nooks, they went wild, simply wild, about wonderful books, choosing thin books and fat books and cat-in-the-hat books, and new books and true books and heaps of how-to books. Giraffes wanted tall books, and the crickets craved small books, while geckos could only read stick-to-the-wall books. That's right. The pandas demanded more books in Chinese. Molly filled the request, always eager to please. She even found waterproof books for the otter, who never went swimming without Harry Potter. Raccoons read alone, and baboons read in bunches, and llamas read dramas while eating their luncheons. Hyenas shared jokes with the red-bellied snakes, and they howled and they hissed till their funny bones ached. A tree kangaroo who adored Nancy Drew began solving mysteries right there at the zoo, such as, why were the bandicoots' books overdue? And you can see, look what the bandicoot did to the books. He made a little tent out of the books. Gently, Molly taught lessons in treating books right, for the boa constrictor squeezed Crichter too tight. Baby bunnies mucked up Goodnight Moon with their paws, and giant termites devoured the Wizard of Oz. And the bears' love of books was completely outrageous. They licked all the pictures right off of the pages. Tasmanian devils found books so exciting that soon they had given up fighting for writing. They made up adventures so thrilling and new that the others decided to be authors too. That's right. Pythons wrote with their tails, and penguins wrote with their bills, and porcupines wrote with their very own quills. Did you like my watch? At the new insect zoo, bugs were scribbling haiku. The scorpion gave each a stinging review. As the cheetah's new novel began to take shape, he read chapters each night to the Barbary ape. And although the gazelle couldn't spell very well, like everyone else, she had stories to tell. Imagine the hippo's enormous surprise when her memoir was given the Zulitzer Prize. With so many new books, Molly knew what to do. She hired 12 beavers, a stork, and a gnu to build a branch library right there at the zoo. Then the animals cried, "We can do it ourselves. We can check the books out. We can put them on shelves." And they did, and they do, up to this very day. 3 cheers for the Zoobery. Hip, hip, hooray! So when you visit the zoo now, you surely won't mind if the animals seem just a bit hard to find. They're snug in their niches, their nests, and their nooks, going wild, simply wild, about wonderful books.
It's just saying, I like you, you're okay. Anaya.
Here's the honey badger Paxton. This is an Eric Carle book called The Foolish Tortoise, and it's written by Richard Buckley. A tortoise tired of being slow, impatient to get up and go, took off his large and heavy shell and left it lying where it fell. "Hooray," he cried, "now I've been freed. I'll see the world at double speed." Though faster, he was not express, and his protection was far less. So when he heard a hornet's drone, the tortoise crept beneath a stone. A hungry bird came swooping past. He looked so fierce and flew so fast. The tortoise hid behind some trees and felt quite weak behind the knees. You can see him, he's hiding behind the rock. "I don't feel safe, there's too much risk. If only I could be more brisk." He headed up for the riverbed. A fish swam up and the tortoise fled. Along his way our hero went and almost had an accident. A snake with open jaws slid near. The tortoise backed away in fear. A hare, a hound, a horse raced by. So rapidly they seemed to fly. The tortoise grass sat Google-eyed. "I'll never be that quick," he sighed. Will you ever be that quick, Mr. Tortoise? He wandered on, the sun rose high. "I wish I had more shade," he cried. A sudden thunderstorm swept in and soaked the tortoise to the skin. The wind rose up and soon the breeze was bending branches in the trees. The tortoise shivered, "Now I'm cold. I wish I hadn't been so bold. I think I've lost the urge to roam. I think it's time that I went home." Without my shell, I don't feel right. So when his shell came into sight, he climbed back in and said, "Good night." Thanks for enjoying our story, Mr. Tortoise. When I visited Living Treasures, I was lucky enough to ride a camel. They have camel rides available. Well, while I was riding the camel, I thought, I know a good draw and tell story called A Trip to the Zoo. So stay tuned and I will share that story with you. A Trip to the Zoo. One day, a nice grandmother decided to take her 5 grandchildren to the zoo. Andrea, Nancy, Eileen, and Julie were very excited. But David said, "I don't want to go with a bunch of girls." So Grandma said, "Why don't you ask 3 boys? That will make 4 boys and 4 girls, and 8 is the perfect number for me to take to the zoo. You'll see why later." So David asked Rick and Bob and James to go along, and they all jumped into Grandma's van right here. They drove off to the zoo like this. First, Grandma bought each a bag of peanuts. Then the girls started off in this direction, and the boys went the opposite way. The girls came to a big outside exhibit. Animals of the African plains. They looked over a moat here, and the first thing they saw was a herd of zebra and several kinds of antelope. Lions roamed the next section here. A big daddy lion roared at them, so the girls ran on to this last section, which was for giraffes and elephants. Those elephants really enjoyed the peanuts that the girls gave them. When they left the African animals, the girls took a path which led them down past the tigers and up past the buffaloes like this, to a little round building which was the aviary. They went inside to see many beautiful birds from all over the world. Meanwhile, the boys had gone down this path to a building with a domed roof. It was a reptile house. The boys wanted to see the snakes and crocodiles, so they went inside. It was very hot in there. So before long they left and took a path up here and across the bridge like this. Then down this way to another building with a domed roof. This was the polar exhibit. Inside it was very cold, so after the boys saw the polar bears and the penguins, they went outside and started up the path that leads to where the monkeys are. They stopped to toss peanuts to the monkeys and to watch the chimps do tricks and to see the baboons, and last to visit a big gorilla who made faces at them. About that time, the girls left the aviary and found Grandma waiting beside a pond here. 3 seals lived in the pond. You can see one of them swimming here and the other 2 sunning themselves on some rocks at the side. Now here come the boys, and they're running because right next to the seal pond, they saw a sign that said camel rides. Under the sign is this handsome camel with a howdah on its back. "Now it's time to go home," said Grandma, "but first I'm sure you will want to take a camel ride." Of course they did, and you can see the boys' heads right here. You can't see the girls because this howdah seats 8 people, and the girls are on the other side of the camel's hump. And now you know why Grandma said 8 kids were the perfect number for a trip to the zoo.